Yo, what's going on, everybody? I'm your boy Numbskull, and welcome back to Obscure Substances. Today's episode is on a plant that almost never gets talked about outside of herbalist circles, despite having a long history of traditional use and a very distinct kind of subtle psychoactivity. This is Pedicularis densiflora, commonly known as Indian warrior or warrior's plume, a bright red flowering plant native to the forests and woodlands of California and Oregon. At first glance, Pedicularis densiflora stands out visually more than chemically. It produces dense clusters of deep red flowers that rise above low forest vegetation, often growing in oak woodlands or mixed conifer environments. What makes it biologically interesting is that it's a hemiparasite. That means it can photosynthesize on its own, but it also taps into the roots of nearby plants, especially species like manzanita, to draw additional nutrients. This relationship may actually influence its chemical profile, since the compounds available in the soil and surrounding ecosystem can affect what the plant produces or accumulates. Historically, Pedicularis has been used by Native American groups in California as a medicinal herb, primarily for relaxation, muscle tension, and emotional balance. It was not used as a strong intoxicant or visionary plant, but more as a calming agent, something taken to ease the body and quiet the mind. That traditional role lines up closely with modern anecdotal reports, which consistently describe it as a somewhat subtle, grounding, and physically relaxing effect rather than mentally overwhelming. One of the reasons this plant remains obscure is because modern science has not identified a single defining psychoactive compound responsible for its effects. Unlike something like caffeine, THC, or psilocybin, Pedicularis densiflora appears to work through a combination of multiple phytochemical classes acting together at once. Studies on the broader Pedicularis genus, they show the presence of iridoid glycosides, phenylpropanoid glycosides, flavonoids, lignans, tannins, and a handful of unique alkaloids that are rarely found outside this genus. Compounds such as pediculidine and pedicularidine have been identified, but their direct effects on the human nervous system are still largely unknown. Because of that, the experience of this plant is best understood as a synergistic effect rather than the action of a single molecule. The iridoids and phenylpropanoids are believed to contribute to anti-inflammatory and muscle-relaxing properties. Flavonoids and phenolic compounds may play a role in calming the nervous system. Together, they all seem to create what herbalists often describe as a Nervine effect, meaning a gentle calming influence on both the body and the mind. Subjectively, the effects are usually described as mild, but very noticeable in the right context. The most consistent report is deep muscle relaxation. Tension in the shoulders, neck, and back tends to soften, sometimes to a quite surprising degree. People often describe a feeling of physical unwinding, like the body is slowly letting go of built-up stress. This can be especially noticeable after a long day or in situations where anxiety manifests physically. Mentally, the experience is calm rather than euphoric. There can be a slight uplift in mood, sometimes described as a quiet sense of contentment or inner peace, but it does not push into intense euphoria or stimulation. Thoughts tend to slow down slightly, and the overall headspace becomes more grounded and steady. Some people compare it loosely to a very light benzodiazepine-like effect, without the heavy sedation or cognitive impairment. Others describe it as similar to the body relaxation of cannabis, but without the extremely strong mental alteration or extremely strong intoxication. When smoked, the onset is relatively quick, often within minutes. A gentle wave of relaxation spreads through the body, accompanied by a slight heaviness in the limbs and a calming of mental tension. The smoke itself is often described as smooth and slightly sweet or earthy. The effects tend to peak within 30 minutes and can last for a couple of hours, gradually tapering off without a harsh comedown. When taken as a tea, the onset is slower, but the effects can feel more sustained and body-focused. At higher amounts, some users report a much deeper sense of tranquility that borders on mild euphoria, though still in a very controlled and functional way. There may be a slightly dreamy quality to perception, but not in a visually hallucinatory sense. It's more like a softening of edges where stress and agitation fade into the background. Even at these levels, it does not resemble a psychedelic experience. There are no strong visuals, no major shifts in reality perception, and no overwhelming mental effects. One interesting aspect of Pedicularis densiflora is how well it combines with other substances. In herbal practice, it is often included in smoking blends or teas designed for relaxation. Some people report that it enhances the calming qualities of other herbs, making it a kind of supporting component rather than the main driver of an experience. Because its effects are so gentle, it tends to layer onto other substances rather than totally overpower them. There has been some confusion online about safety, particularly regarding claims that the plant contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids, which are known to be harmful to the liver. Current understanding suggests that Pedicularis densiflora does not produce these compounds on its own. Any trace presence would likely come from environmental contamination through its parasitic root connections, and this is not considered rare when the plant is properly sourced. In fact, broader studies on the genus point toward antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and even hepatoprotective properties rather than toxicity. Just a moment ago, did I say that it's considered not rare? Because I meant rare. Anywho, in terms of safety profile, it is generally regarded as low risk when used in moderate amounts. There are no widespread reports of dependence, withdrawal, or serious adverse effects. As with any herb, individual sensitivity can vary, and it is always recommended to start with smaller amounts, especially with extracts or concentrated forms. Clean sourcing is also important, particularly with wild harvested plants, to ensure that the material is free from dangerous contamination. From a pharmacological standpoint, Pedicularis densiflora remains something of a mystery. Without a clearly defined active compound or clinical studies, it exists in a space that is shaped more by traditional knowledge and user experience than by laboratory data. That uncertainty is part of what keeps it in the realm of obscure substances. It is not flashy, it's not intense, and not widely studied, yet it offers a distinct and consistent effect profile that sets it apart from more well-known herbs and substances. In the broader picture, this plant represents a different side of psychoactivity. Not everything is about extreme intensity, visuals, or extreme states of consciousness. Some substances work quietly, easing tension, smoothing out stress, and creating a sense of balance without drawing attention to themselves, or at least, not a ton of attention. Pedicularis densiflora fits into that category perfectly. It is somewhat subtle, functional, and rooted in traditional use, offering a glimpse into how plants have been used not just to alter the mind, but also to support it, and to support other substances. That combination of subtle effects, unclear chemistry, and long-standing ethnobotanical use is what makes it worthy of a spot in this series. In a world where most psychoactive discussions revolve around extremes, this plant stands as a reminder that even the quietest substances can have their own unique place. And that is going to be my obscure substances video on Indian Warrior's Plume. I thought this would make a fantastic next entry in this series, not only because of how obscure and interesting it is, but also because you can easily and legally acquire the substance today, even online. If you enjoy what I do around here, a like and a subscribe and follow would be very much appreciated. Comment letting me know if there's something specific you'd like to see next, and if you've got a story to share, submit it via my Instagram or Facebook, same name and PFP across all platforms. Don't forget post notifications either so you don't miss out when I post. Stay frosty, stay curious, and as always, stay safe out there. And with that, I will of course see all of you in the next one. Peace.